Hi, today I'm in Wałbrzych, or Waldenberg as it was once known, and this around me is the former Fuchs coal mine, later called Julia. And I came here in the Mercedes-Benz EQC, an electric SUV. Insert a joke about coal power plants here. I realize coal power stations are not as clean as renewables, but even coal power stations have filters which some older cars may not have. And I'm not going to try and convince you that a €100,000 EV will make you kinder to the environment when you can barely afford to keep your old wheels running and charging infrastructure is a problem. The former Julia coal mine is now a museum. Tour guides are former miners who are not afraid to move on and take on new challenges. It's an interesting place on the region's cultural map, where history and modernity intertwine, just like in the Mercedes-Benz EQC. Mercedes likes to boast that Carl Benz invented the car. He was granted a patent in 1886, and this 1886 edition is a reference to this date. Is the EQC a breakthrough like the car which Bertha Benz took on a 100+ kilometer journey? I'm recording this in late 2019, and the trip from Warsaw to Wałbrzych, more than 400 kilometers, is still a challenge. What is the EQC? EQ stands for Electric Intelligence, and this is the name Mercedes uses for its new electrified range. The letter C is for the segment. The EQC is about the same size as the GLC Coupe. If you look at it from the rear three-quarters, you will see the falling roofline and sloping rear window like in the GLC Coupe, but the tailgate ends vertically like in the GLC SUV. The EQC and the GLC have similar wheelbase, similar width and height, but the EQC is longer. Mercedes is rather conservative with its first dedicated EV project. First dedicated, because Mercedes already offers electric smart, there was the B-Class electric, and now there are also electric versions of vans. However, the EQC doesn't have a combustion engine counterpart. Why so conservative then? I guess Mercedes doesn't want to overwhelm the clients who will have to learn the new powertrain. Even the interior looks familiar, maybe besides the lines going across the front part of the cockpit. The top half gets the MBUX infotainment system from new models, while the lower part is like from the GLC, from the older parts bin. For a start, a bunch of specs. The battery capacity is 80 kilowatt hours and the battery packs weigh 650 kilograms. The battery is liquid cooled, max charging is 110 kilowatts, official range is 417 kilometers WLTP, assuming you're using 22 around kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Now, by advanced mathematics, this does not compute, but we'll get back to this later. The car has 408 horsepower and 760 Nm of torque, two independent motors power two axles. The top speed is 180 km per hour and 0 to 100 km per hour time is 5.1 seconds. The car weighs over 2,400 kilograms and can tow up to 1,800 kilograms. So the first thing I need to address here is the distance. Since 2007 financial crisis, press cars in Poland are no longer offered with a fuel allowance. As a result, many journalists learned the principles of eco-driving. So did I. I know how to drive smoothly, economically, how to regenerate energy, etc. But achieving 22.3 kWh per 100 km in the EQC requires heavenly patience and constant use of all the range-extending systems.
So, even the 400 kilometers range is purely theoretical because in normal city traffic I'm getting 24 kilowatt hours. How did they come up with 417? Well, actually it's between 374 and 417 at 22.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which still sort of gives us 350 kilometers.
Assuming I keep using regenerative braking all the time, I would probably be able to recoup a couple of dozen kilometers. I managed that in the Kia e-Niro, but over there, the trip computer is designed to show me how much energy I'm recuperating at any given moment, and this encourages me to try harder. In the Mercedes, I don't know how much I'm regaining, so I'm not motivated to try.
Perhaps Mercedes assumes the EQC owners have better things to think about and they'll just drive from one fast charger to another, and they will be visiting them quite often because realistically the EQC range is about 300-320 kilometers as long as I keep it below 100 kilometers per hour. Driving 120, 140 I was using over 30 kilowatt hours, cutting the range down to about 250 kilometers.
Even if there are many fast chargers along the route, you'd have to stop for half an hour every hour. And that's assuming you get the 100 kilowatt chargers, not the 50 kilowatt ones like we get in Poland. Charging from 11% to full took me 2 hours.
I know fast charging to 100% is not recommended, but I had no choice because there is no CCS charger in Wałbrzych. There is only a CHAdeMO plug, a different system, or a Type 2 socket, much slower, so charging would take half a day and I don't have half a day to spare because there is filming to be done.
So the nearest fast charger is about 150 kilometers away, which leaves me another 150 for filming. In case of emergency, I can recoup a couple of dozen kilometers range from a Type 2 socket.
Lack of infrastructure in rural Poland is not Mercedes' fault. I'm sure the charger network will expand. Never mind, fast chargers can be expensive. I suppose if you buy a Merc, the price is not a problem, but accessibility is. Anyway, the EQC is a city SUV, not a car to dash off to the mountains for a skiing trip. Also because Mercedes EQC official ground clearance is less than 10 centimeters. They had to put the batteries somewhere, and they put them in the floor.
Around the city and on country roads, the EQC is relatively economical, albeit not as economical as the manufacturer claims. It is very well sound insulated and comfortable. Despite the car weighing almost 2.5 tons, the engineers managed to mask this weight quite well. On bumps, you can feel the suspension working, but it is not making any unpleasant sounds. There are no vibrations. Soundproofing is excellent from the underside as well as from the front and the sides, even on the motorway and on a windy day.
Okay, fine, so I often say that, oh, this car is well soundproofed and this car, you can hear road noise, etc, etc. You don't have to take my word for it, I'm going to demonstrate it. So, we are next to a charging station, and this charging station is next to some shopping mall electrical place. Can you hear anything? Maybe a small hum in the background, and now I'll just open the door. Can you hear the difference? So I say the Merc has very good soundproofing. Driving is not particularly engaging. Comfortable suspension and high mass mean that there is some body roll in the corners and nose diving on braking. It's not very bad, but it's strong enough to make you think twice before you go crazy. You'll probably win off the lights, but then better slow down.
The steering is, on the one hand, very direct for an SUV, but on the other hand, it is over-assisted. Before you know it, the lane keep assist intervenes. The brakes also don't have much feel to them. It is hard to judge when recuperation ends and it is time to start braking yourself.
And now it's time for driver aids. Mercedes added a bunch of EV-related features. For example, there is a maximum range mode, which slows the car aggressively before the speed limits and adds strong resistance to the gas pedal.
In other modes, the car will recuperate energy strongly before entering an urban area. I know why it is doing that, but I'd like to have more control over recuperation.
I can adjust recuperation level with paddles like in many other EVs. However, here the plus is for less recuperation and minus for more recuperation, something you have to get used to.
The menu now features an EV section. There is a search engine for chargers, energy use and energy flow data. I'd like to have these two grouped together. Also, I'd like to see battery charge in percent on the instrument cluster rather than just bars. Maybe Mercedes clients don't need to know exactly.
An interesting feature is an automatic search for chargers along the way when the car decides it makes sense to charge. I wish it also included chargers from other operators who are not part of the Mercedes Me Charge program. You'll just have to download the PlugShare app. Driving an electric car somewhere further requires a lot of planning. Is there a fast charger along the way? Is there at least an electric socket in the hotel so you can charge overnight? By the way, I asked you about EV infrastructure in your countries and I got the impression nobody's really satisfied.
But look at the scenery. I drove this EV more than 400 kilometers one way and I get to breathe clean air, which I'm not polluting. A few years ago, 100 kilometers in an EV was a big deal. Practicality. There is decent legroom, average headroom. The back seat is very soft. Also the floor is soft, possibly due to soundproofing. The backrest splits 40-20-40. With the seats folded, there is almost 1500 liters cargo space. With the seats up, you get about 500 liters. The EQC may be designed from scratch as an electric car, but charging cables are under the boot floor. Try to reach them when the boot is loaded. Sometimes you need to have your own Type 2 cable. Why not design a frunk or front trunk like in the Jaguar I-Pace? Because under the bonnet here is the electric motor and some other stuff. So no place for cables. It's a shame. Prices of the Mercedes-Benz EQC start at around €71,000. This test car with options costs €90,000. An Audi e-tron starts at €81,000 and a Jaguar I-Pace will set you back at least €80,000 as well. So the EQC is very competitively priced, and if you are looking for an electric SUV to drive on short distances, then who am I kidding? With this kind of range, you're going to find better ways to spend $100,000 than on an electric car.
Recently, a board member of another German premium brand said EV range will probably stop at around 500-600 kilometers, above which hydrogen starts making sense, especially in larger cars like SUVs. Mercedes-Benz EQC has the chance to get to this range, maybe after the facelift. I don't need to drive more than 300 kilometers in one go, but at least I like to drive like other cars, not stuck behind a truck. And what do you think about EVs? What range would satisfy you? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe, rate and share. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.